This is Star Talk Sports Edition. I got Gary O'Reilly with me. Gary.
Hey, Neil.
Yeah, Gary, you're going to take us someplace.
Yes.
Let me dredge my memories from a couple pre-COVID. I think this was.
Yeah. Just rewind 2 years.
Was there a world before COVID? Did the world exist?
It feels like a lifetime ago, but only 2 years ago. So back in February 2020, we released a show called Stadiums of the Future. Now, it's interesting because the stadium we picked hadn't been constructed yet. It was still in the process of finding itself. Now, that stadium is the SoFi Stadium, and that will be the venue for this year's big game, the NFL's big game, the 56th time it's taken place. And we're not allowed to say the S word, they get all upset. Now, the thing is, if you remember, Neil, we actually sent you there in a hard hat and a high-vis vest to go and find out what it was like to see this thing emerge and what the logistical challenges were and how it came to be and the people that were behind bringing it. This is a very Star Talkian approach to sports and a stadium because there's no athletes, there's no head coaches, there's no TV dramas, there's just the guys and the girls that bring this thing to fruition. So if you remember, the SoFi has this gigantic transparent roof, and it doesn't have that bigger profile out of the ground because it's been sunken, because it is directly underneath the flight path to LAX. So go on, Neil, give me a thought of what it was like to walk into that arena as it was being constructed.
Yeah, I remember that. First, there was the bit of pride when you speak to the engineers for what it is they were designing for it. What kind of technologies would enable and empower not only future teams who play there, but future visitors. So it was a delight. I was geeking out basically, and I'd forgotten that yes, this stadium is sunken into the ground, kind of like I think the Rose Bowl is partly underground as well in Pasadena, if memory serves. And so that gives it a much lower profile on the horizon. Otherwise, it just kind of sticks out, like a sore thumb. Yeah. But the fact that it has a lower profile, and you're right, it's on the takeoff and landing path of LAX. So they were, I was going to say they were considerate for this. No, that's not just being considerate. That's being safe. All right. There's probably some legal limits surrounding that as well. But just to look at how they were attempting to future-proof this stadium. And I was there not knowing that it would one day carry the big game. What do you mean, the bowl that is super, that game? So I was delighted, and I asked, I think, all the right questions, and we had a good time.
As well as sending you out in the great wild of the SoFi Stadium, we had a guest, and this guest is from IBM Sports. He's the chief infrastructure architect at IBM Sport, a guy called Ben Brulat, and he was involved in the construction of the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. If you know the Atlanta Dome, it has this sort of tessellated lotus flower roof that opens up. It's magnificent. And he explained to us to do this, and the same with the SoFi, you have to be thinking 5, 10, maybe even 15 years advance for technologies that are going to emerge, but that you are able to adapt to. Otherwise, you've got a stadium that doesn't work. I mean, there are stadiums now that are probably being constructed in the early 2000s that, as far as technologies that we have now in 2022, is more or less obsolete. They're out of date.
So Gary, there are two challenges there. So one of them is, you want to future-proof everything you do in all construction. Mm-hmm. But future-proofing involves projecting, and the scientific word for that is extrapolating. When data are informing your future expectations, it's called extrapolating. So you have a plot of the way things are trending, and you say, no, let me continue the slope of that line, of these parameters that I've plotted, and go into the future and have this thing I'm building today be able to accommodate this growth curve. That works to a point. The problem occurs, and you're right, Gary, it's typically a 15-year horizon. People can be good if you invest brain energy, projecting 5 to 10 years out. 15 years, what begins to happen. You get discoveries and inventions that come out of left field or come in from the end zone,
Yeah.
whatever
Whichever
sports
works.
reference, whichever reference you're comfortable with. But it comes
Yep.
from a different place. It comes from a place that's not even on the plot, on the chart that you were using to make those predictions. And those are game changers for everything. So, I don't know what a good example would that be. Okay, here's one. How are you going to, this is not a big challenge because we had accommodated it, but it's an example. You want a future kitchen and you say, well, what kind of modern stoves are we going to have? Okay, they might be electric. So let me put the stove near a power plug. That'll future proof it. Okay, maybe there's some other electricity that needs to go. Let me make a conduit there. And you do all of this. And then a microwave oven shows up. Okay. Yeah. Who ordered that? That's not an extrapolation of a modern oven that involves heat and flames or coils. It's a whole other technology. So where do you put that? So modern kitchens, of course, are designed to fit those comfortably and nicely. That was not much of a stretch as far as construction goes, but you can imagine something that would be completely transformative, that would make SoFi Stadium look like something like Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they will want to leave intentional space to accommodate anything new and the hardware that needs to be in place for that new technology to be productive. I mean, the other thing they did was they earthquake-proof, because it's downtown LA and things shake and wobble on occasion.
Shake and bake, yeah.
Yeah, they earthquake-proofed the whole stadium. Now, this is a big deal. This is a $4 billion, beginning with a B, billion-dollar project. I mean, it is an entertainment palace.
But just to be clear, I'm an astrophysicist. You don't have to extra explain the number billion to me.
No. It's just in case people don't understand my version of English and they think I'm saying 4 million and it's actually billion. So yes. It's so interesting. And if I remember rightly, we also then take that, as you say, extrapolate what might be coming along before we've quite got there, but using what we know now. We thought maybe augmented displays for people in stadiums could be something in the future. So if you imagine you've decided you want to be a defensive end, you could end up having a sensory experience that feels like hitting a quarterback.
Yeah, or before you get there, just imagine you buy a stadium experience from the NFL or from the home team or from SoFi Stadium, and they'll sell you the ticket at the 50-yard line 20 rows up. Mm-hmm. And then you go into your augmented reality room in your home and you experience the entire game from that seat.
Wow. Big ticket price.
Then you don't even have to go to the game and then take that up a notch, okay? Mm-hmm. So now you're saying, why be in the stadium at all? Why not be on the field? And you could be sort of an avatar on the field as players are running by you. Because if you have sensors that monitor everything about all the players, which IBM currently does, or has the power to do, if you do that, and I know where all the players are, I know what their heartbeats are, because the coaches want to know that. When are you going to bring them out? When are you going to put them back in? When have they recovered their oxygen levels? I have all that information.
Yep.
And information is power. Information is money, right? So now you put me on the field. I'll be eating Cheetos sitting on the line of scrimmage while the whole game is going on around me.
You'll be eating crisps and sacking quarterbacks. It'll be a dream come true. So this is it.
But you're saying you want to also include the physical experience of getting hit, and So does a person pay extra for that?
Well, the answer to that is simply yes. You pay extra for anything like that. It's a yes. But that's it, Niels. You see, the thing is, this is where we take the show. And as I referenced before, only Star Talk will do this. Only Star Talk will think this way towards
it's very
the
trademark
subject
of
matter.
us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so this is why we're re-releasing this particular show from 2 years ago to stand on the shoulders of this big game, but to give our audience an understanding of the environment they're in that will sit nicely next to the performances, hopefully, of the players.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So good work there, Gary. And I look forward to checking out the episode again. Today's topic, modern stadium design and the tech that informs it. So who do I have here? I've got Ben Brillat. Did I pronounce that right?
You did. Thank you.
Ben, welcome.
Thanks very much.
You work for IBM.
I do.
You design stadiums. Wait, you got a title here. Global Chief Architect for Sports and Entertainment Services.
Yes.
That's a lot of syllables to say you design stadiums.
Well, I design technology for stadiums.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Yes. I don't want to cause any fights.
Yeah.
technology
Okay.
for
All right.
stadiums, Yeah.
So we'll get back to you in a minute. Gary,
Yes.
always good.
Yeah, good to be here.
Gary O'Reilly. Chuck,
Hey.
you're my people.
Yes,
You're my
that's
sports
correct.
people.
We are.
my sports people. So recently I visited the SoFi Stadium just outside of Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
They're in the middle of building it.
Yep.
And I'm looking at the numbers at $5 billion.
Wow.
Since when did stadiums
number.
cost that much?
Big
Dude.
numbers.
Recently.
Recently, no, since when?
Exactly.
Since 20 minutes ago.
Just saying.
70,000 seats.
Yep.
Opening summer 2020. And it didn't look like they're going to be.
You're saying they're not making it.
I'm
That's
saying.
what you're saying.
I was there.
Right.
I flew over it. It didn't look like. But anyhow,
Talk to the unions.
I'll tell you this much: they better be ready by August of 2020 because they already said goodbye to the old stadium last year.
Yeah, otherwise they're playing
for the football teams.
They're playing pickup game in the parking lot.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Wouldn't it?
Oh my God! Just like you could tailgate and watch the game at the same time.
And be in it.
Right.
And be in it. Hey, you missed it. Take it back.
Right. Little help. Yeah, that's great.
So that stadium houses the LA Rams and the Chargers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Ben, so just get a little more, we'll get back to that. I got footage of me visiting it. But Ben, how long has IBM had such a thing?
IBM engagement started really with the Atlanta Olympics in the 90s.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
You guys been in the space
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
in
So-
that space for a while.
So you were the chief technology architect for the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, but that was way after the Olympics.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
So,
they didn't have
totally different design.
They
yeah.
didn't have the benefit of your brilliance.
No, although some of the fiber infrastructure actually ended up being reused.
Okay.
Oh really? You mean recycled and reused, or
Nope. It was still there, still good.
and you just actually okay? Well, way to save them some money.
So how are you combining this sports and tech at IBM? Because in these stadiums where big muscle football players play, it don't look like you have ever played football in your life.
No, I have not. I don't want to.
So how do you land in that pot?
Yeah. So IBM is approaching technology in stadiums really from two sides. The first is sort of the digital, where we're doing AI programs and how can we help coaches make better decisions about players? How can we
the game
analyze
itself.
Yep. How can we analyze data, be able to take a coach and put them virtually after the game in a VR room standing next to their player and say, can I understand better why he missed that or why he made that? Can I watch this from a 3D perspective? Things
Why not
like
put
that.
him in during the game?
Well,
Wouldn't that be cool?
That-
you have a holographic coach on the field.
Right.
yep.
I think
so
that tech is almost around now. You can virtually, with only a few seconds delay, you can put someone back into the space
Yeah.
and analyze that play almost real time.
And that's where I come in, actually, is that the limitation now is the technology and the data bandwidth available on the field. How can we get enough antennas, enough kinds of radios to be able to move that information from the field to the stadium
In real time
in real time?
to make real time decisions.
Exactly. And so I'm involved in all of the physical infrastructure, the antennas, the cell phone radios, the Wi-Fi access points, the security cameras, all of the physical tech that makes the digital tech possible.
So I just got to tell you, I'm really feeling good listening to you because I led a geeky life, but it was early enough in the geek timetable that we all not I because I was bigger than others, but most of my geek friends all got beat up by the football players.
Right.
Okay. Until the football players needed the geeks to help them with their computer homework.
There you go.
Okay.
Right.
So the balance of power changed. And so now you are enabling professional sports.
Absolutely.
And now you are like a patron saint of what enables them to do what they do. You have sports people as your protectors.
Yeah, I mean, we want that data. We want them healthy. We want to know where they were. We want to know that predictive insights into injuries.
That means he's never gotten a wedgie.
That may
that may
I
be
mean, you
true
bring a
or may
football
not be
player-
true. However, this isn't the show to explore that. It's the one thought that's crystallized in my
just saying,
mind.
all my people got wedgies
Right,
coming
exactly.
out.
I think what Neil is saying is before you leave here,
I mean,
yeah, just watch yourself.
I got a linebacker on speed dial.
There you go.
All right,
But that is a
that's
cool
good.
thing because you can just be like, yo, bro, one line of code and I can make it so that you.
One line,
Right, one line of code, bro.
Oh, that'd be
you're
a great
done.
name of a company. One line of code.
One line of code.
Oh, man.
Makes all the difference.
Wait, so at what point are you brought in? So I'm rich and I want to build a stadium. At what point do I call you?
The earlier, the better.
Right.
So we started in Atlanta when it was still a hole in the ground, literally still there, because the technology, particularly as we start to talk about, of course, Atlanta's a 4G stadium, but as we look at 5G,
Damn.
more and more antennas means more and more wires to the antennas.
That's right.
And so we actually have to bury conduit in the concrete before it even gets poured. So you have to have a design for that ready to go right from day
With enough
zero.
conduit to future-proof it.
Yes.
Okay, why not Wi-Fi this thing? Save on the wires.
So all of that Wi-Fi
It's still
means
bandwidth.
more and more
More and more
access points.
right.
And every access point, so while it's Wi-Fi to your handheld device, the access point in the ceiling needed a wire. That smoke detector in the ceiling needed a wire. You have to get the more...
There's a wire somewhere.
That's right.
For me, that's my answer.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
In fact, the more mobile devices, the more wires behind the scenes.
So in fact, wireless is just
It's a distance
Yes.
description.
So we got some footage of me at the SoFi Stadium
Right.
outside of Los Angeles. The LA, the Chargers and the Rams
correct.
both will play there.
That's right.
In obviously unless
Not
they play
on the
each
same
other.
day.
Unless they play each other.
Right.
Unless they play each other.
There you go.
Then they do play on the same day in the same stadium.
That'd be kind of cool. I'll go to that game.
You'll go like it. All
Yeah.
right. So I visited it, and one thing I couldn't help notice is just the enormous roof. A lot of thought went into that roof. So let's check out this high-tech roof. What is that transparent roof made of?
It's called an ETFE system,
How transparent is it?
about 60%, from what I understand.
Oh, so what you're saying is it'll block out about 60% of sunlight that could come in.
That's what I
Either
understand.
reflect it
Yeah,
or
yes.
do something else with it.
That's correct.
Okay.
So those are 60-foot by 60-foot grid areas.
I see 'em.
And then what we do is we build that frame on the ground outside the building. And as we load this diaphragm in place, we go ahead and put those in and we pull the ETFE system over top.
How long does it stay transparent?
It'll stay transparent from the time we finish the project on.
Not as long as birds poop on it. You got a
Well,
way to clean that off?
There is a way to clean it.
How you do that?
And they'll go up there.
I don't see any way anybody's going up there to clean bird poop.
There is access up there, and there is a gutter system up there to go ahead and allow for washing down and also
Oh,
for
so you
rain.
can hose it off.
That's one thing we can do as far as the birds though, is also use a falconer. So you can actually have falcons that come around here to keep birds away. Does that help? I'm
very-
trying to be
that's-
as smart as this man.
That's very National Geographic,
Yes,
right?
yes.
All right, you glad you turned up for this show? Yes. Yeah. All right, so there's a little insight. I want to say window, but I've done it now. Onto what's going on in this 21st century stadium. What else could we build into a roof like that? Because that's a massive expanse.
And by roof, he means bird toilet.
Yeah. So I mean, are we going to have solar panels? Because California, I think every new construction has to have solar panels.
Thank God.
Can we use it like a TV screen? Can we project things out? What could we do to play with this and make it just more than just a roof?
I mean, you'd love to, right? The technology for solar panels. I mean, the problem is the weight today, right? Can you make it light enough to be able to cover the surface and still have it span that enormous distance, which it now spans? We've moved from stadiums where you used to have, limited sight view seats to stadiums where there's no such thing in the entire place because these roof materials have gotten so light that now everyone can see from everywhere. So the more technology you want to put up there, of course, the heavier it is. We actually had
But just to be
problems-
clear, heavier roofs require more structures to hold it up that would block your view.
potentially.
A light roof, you don't have to hold up the roof.
Yeah, you can stand further away.
Stand
from it,
further
yeah.
away. So that's what you meant
Fulcrum.
when you.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just trying to follow that. Okay,
So
go
it
on.
becomes a span.
Exactly. So how much distance are you trying to span? How light do you need that material to be in order to make the span so that you don't have a blocked view?
How does a roof like that affect what you would be able to do in the stadium?
It's interesting. The in Atlanta, and presumably they'll have the same problem in Los Angeles as well. The fact that these materials are now plastics, if we look at an older building, like if we're in the lower levels here, concrete, rebar, iron, the RF energy of the city.
Radio frequency.
Yes, the radio.
To be clear.
Doesn't make it into your basement here, right? Whereas when you build out of these new materials, these hyper thin plastics, transparent materials, one of the challenges we're actually having is that all of the RF energy of the city is penetrating into the building now. So,
and you don't want that.
Does that create interference?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. How can you deliver cell service to 80,000 people sitting in a space which need low signal strength because they're not that far from the antenna?
But wouldn't you want to not provide them cell service? Wouldn't you want to block their cell service and provide them your own particular frequency? Because then you can determine what they're going to watch, see, hear, and how they're going to interact with the stadium and other people, because you're the puppeteer electronically at that point.
Absolutely.
Damn,
absolutely.
Chuck.
That's
Who you work for? What are you? Are you an IBM operative? On the,
Captain Verizon.
Well, sounds like you work for a DAS company, a distributed antenna system, which is the local cellular system in a stadium. And the problem with that is we want to run our DAS in a stadium and not have it leak out into the city, and not have the city leak in. So these new materials are really creating challenges in how we can do that successfully.
can't you put wires in it and turn it into a Faraday cage?
Yeah, you could. But
You know
again,
about Faraday cage?
Please, we would like to know about a Faraday
It
cage.
has nothing to do with prisons or anything.
Oh, thank gosh.
Faraday is credited with this. So if you have something that conducts electricity, like wire or any kind of metal, and you surround yourself in it, then electromagnetic energy cannot penetrate that surface because it tries to get through and it gets conducted into the surface and it never goes inside. And for example, you can walk out in a lightning storm and if you're surrounded by one of these cages, lightning will hit, it will never go inside your bubble.
And the aliens can't read your thoughts.
That too. Hence the aluminum foil hat.
Exactly. It's just nothing more than an aluminum foil hat. That's really what it is.
That's exactly what it is. Okay, sorry, go on.
Yeah.
Pick it up.
So with these new materials, it's just become very difficult to create the separation that we need to deliver that kind of service. So that's meaning new antenna designs, new antenna placements, more antennas. In fact, in Atlanta, we have a first-of-a-kind deployment of the cellular phone antennas are actually under the seats in the upper levels of the stadium.
Wow.
Because what we want is very low signal power to only go a few meters to the nearby seats.
And it sterilizes your gonads.
Well,
I don't feel a little warm right now. What am I doing? Oh, that's so that you get strong signal.
Right.
Don't you want that?
Ticket sales have just gone down in Atlanta.
we did a lot of testing. Yeah, a lot of engineering went into making that work.
Another interesting fact that we don't think about much here on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, it is in every design point. What do you do about earthquakes?
Ooh.
Can you earthquake-proof a stadium?
Yes.
So at the SoFi tour that I took, I had to ask him about it. Let's check it out.
This bowl structure is a separate element to the roof structure.
All right.
And it's separated by what's called an MSE wall, mechanical stabilized earth wall. So it's panels that go in. So if you were to walk through the rest of the stadium, you go to a back area that has about 12 foot of gap in between so that this stadium can change.
It can move independently.
It can move independently. And then the blade columns support the roof structure that actually go to butterfly caps and struts and to dead men, and that acts independently with isolators at the top that can move up to 81 inches.
So you can sustain an earthquake, it sounds like.
Yes, we can.
That's code for the stadium can shake and bake.
It can shake and bake.
It's got a little bit of movement to it.
It does.
And you got it.
And you wouldn't even know, because as you walk in, we have a moat lid. So there is a moat that goes all the way around that most people don't know.
A moat.
A moat.
M-O-A-T.
M-O-A-T.
With crocodiles.
Exactly. It could be. It could.
Because, I mean, the history of learning about earthquakes and other sort of issues is you don't want movement over here to have to be felt in the rest of the structure.
No.
Right? Because that could take down the whole structure.
Correct.
So everything can have some independence.
Right.
And then it just lives as almost an organic element.
And you have these
almost like these cut lines. Right?
Yes, expansions.
Expansion
The
joints.
usual. That'd
Yeah.
be thermal expansions and things.
Right.
or- So Ben, you working in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta just a few years ago, did they have to put in any sort of disaster proofing? If not earthquake, some other kind of protection?
I mean, it has to be built for the environment that it's in, right? So Atlanta is a very wet,
Right.
very windy place. The movable roof is there because Atlanta has quite a lot of days when it's rainy. So the
They can't play football in the rain anymore. In my day, you couldn't even see the gridiron. That's how much snow would be on the field, and they'd still play.
Right.
How many fans were there?
I don't know, but
It's
in my
about the
day,
fans. The
In my
fans
day,
don't
we
wanna
played
sit there.
football with a baseball bat. That's right. That's how tough it was.
sorry. Continue.
I know you're not apologizing to me. Yeah.
So all of the facilities are instrumented throughout. So within the roof, within the columns that support it, the structural steel, the structural concrete, there's instrumentation throughout all of it, which today is more wires that we have to bring to be able to measure the stresses that are on a given piece of steel.
When you say instrumentation, you mean diagnostic
Yeah,
tools.
Absolutely.
So you always know the structural health of your facility.
Yeah. So in Atlanta, there are pedals that open and close to move the roof, and you want to know the health of the pedal system. So all of that is instrumented so that you know that it's in balance and all of the motors are operating correctly.
Okay, so you wouldn't be taken by surprise
Exactly.
if anything was about to fail.
Yep.
Thinking about what you said about footballers can't play in this rain, da 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 da. So when you or someone like you is involved in design in a stadium, who are you looking to please? The owners, the coaches, the players, the fans, yourself,
Why
all
would
of the
that be?
above?
Why would that be mutually exclusive?
No, I'm just wondering, is there, the owner says, I want it done this way, and the owner's the guy with the paycheck, therefore the owner gets what it wants, or is there...
Even if that might conflict with something else.
Correct.
Got it.
I think it starts with the fans, right? Because
they're
it's
paying.
that's right.
They're paying the owners.
They're right. They are
The owner
source
works for
of-
the fans.
That's
That's
right.
right. They're the source of revenue for everything else that comes after it. And what you want to deliver is a great experience for them. And with stadiums, huge stadiums, they're getting bigger, they're getting more complex because you have to compete with the fact that it's not that expensive to buy an 85-inch television with
That's what I did.
4K Ultra HD
Yep.
That's what I
and
did.
put it in your man cave.
That's what I did.
All right, hey man,
Well,
you're working against yourself there, Ben.
That's what I did.
No, that's got to be the thought process of every owner.
Yeah. How do we get you out?
How do we get
want
you
you
out of
of
the
your
house? Right on.
Well, you can give crappier television coverage. So I missed that. We got to be at the game.
That's true.
We're going to show the replay only at the game.
Well, there you go.
Well, we want to do both, right? We want to have you have fun on the days you can make it, have fun on the days you can't make it. You want to have everything bringing together best possible experience. But the stadium itself is really competing for that. Let me get you out of your house in Atlanta or in Los Angeles to come in to the stadium.
We got to take a quick break. When we come back, more on the innovative designs of modern stadiums on Star Talk Sports Edition. Star Talk, we're back. Star Talk Sports Edition. Gary O'Reilly,
Hey, yep,
former footballer.
apparently.
You keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Chuck,
Yes.
who do we have here? Ben
Brillat.
Brillat.
Thanks.
None of us even knew that such a person as you existed. The tech, geeky person who empowers modern stadiums to do and be what they need to be to satisfy the fans, the owners, the players, all of the above.
The great and wonderful Oz of stadiums.
That's
Well,
what that is.
That's what you are, man.
That's what that is.
I mean, we hope it's that way, right? We don't want to be too noticed, right?
Man.
Right on.
So, as you know, we're featuring my footage from my visit to the SoFi Stadium under construction.
They're not even built.
Outside of Los Angeles. It's great because one of the landing routes and takeoff routes from LAX goes right over the stadium. So you just look out the window. There it is. Very cool.
That is
That's
cool.
why I know it didn't look like they'd be ready when they said they'd be ready. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But
A lot of late nights coming up.
there's the exterior design, but there's also what's going on the inside. And as you said, the user experience comes first. That resonates with what I learned from the designers of this stadium. Let's check it out.
So
And
what is the Oculus?
So the Oculus is actually the TV screens and/or scoreboards, everything that will be announced.
The world's
about.
largest scoreboard.
Yeah.
And where's it going? Is it
Jumbotron.
going to be in the middle or somewhere else?
No, it actually follows the line of all this. So right where that green box is,
Yeah.
that hydraulic box, imagine about 8 feet away from that, we start building sections of it, and we start building section and we stack sections on it.
Such as this one too, on this side as well?
All the way around the entire bowl.
Uh-huh.
And then we go ahead and put a strand jack similar to this assembly up here, and we introduce load and we pull down, it pulls on the roof. It weighs 2 million pounds when it's completed with components. We assemble it here, we commission it here, and we take it all the way up.
And you hoist it up.
And we hoist it up. So when you're standing on level 8, you see that guy there in the yellow?
Yeah,
so that's
him.
level 8, and then level 9 above, you'll actually be staring right out at that Oculus.
Got it.
So you're going to have those types of seats in those
But he can
views.
still see the field.
Still see the field.